Yes, hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Good morning, Hawaii.
Good morning. Good evening.
Early morning, Hawaii.
Yeah, 4:30 something.
That's all right for early good conversation. Welcome everyone, aloha, and welcome to our seminar, which is devoted to Hawaii lessons of history, Russian flag and American annexation and more. I would start with providing the floor to Mr. Alexander Pavlovich Pasilkin, Head of Office, Department of the North American Affairs, for introductory.
North Atlantic.
North Atlantic, so it's correct here. Okay, North Atlantic of the Russian Foreign Ministry for introductory remarks. Mr. Pasilkin, floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Dear colleagues, on behalf of Deputy Minister Sergei Ryabkov, I would like to welcome all of you and wish you a productive discussions on such intriguing topic as Hawaii, lessons of history, Russian flag and American annexation. As a representative of the North Atlantic Department, which is responsible for Russian-American relations, I would like to express our common hope that people-to-people contacts and scientific cooperation between the Russian Federation and the United States are bringing back to the normalcy. Unlike previous U.S. administration, current American authorities demonstrate willingness and readiness to find a common ground, building fused bilateral dialogue on equal and mutually respectful basis. And our seminar undoubtedly contributes to this uneasy and but highly demanded process. In this regard, we have a really unique opportunity to talk about Russian cultural and historical heritage on the Hawaii, and there is a truly limitless space for the scientific research. I'm sure that the participants of today's seminar and the distinguished Professor Nicholas Schwarzer will tell us fascinating stories about the Russian-American company in the Hawaii and other notable moments of life of our settlers. So I wish you once again fruitful debates and the courage to defend your own point of view. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Pasilkin, for your very positive introductory comments. I'm sure as we have here international audience, both in this room and also online. We have here participants from Russia, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, China, United States, Switzerland, and probably more, but I'm sure that at least this list is correct. I think it was duly noted what you just said. Actually, sometimes seminars are shaped by the topic. And not very often the seminars are shaped by geography. This seminar is definitely shaped more by geography than by the topic. And this geography brings us to aloha culture, to Hawaiian T-shirts, to beautiful places are in the Pacific Ocean, although some may be surprised that if you look at Hawaii, one of the most remotest archipelagos in the world, its extreme western parts of the whole archipelago are close to Russia than to the United States. I was lucky to visit state of Hawaii and almost all major Hawaiian islands at numerous occasions, and it was already more than 10 years when I introduced my own study and my own small project on the Russian legacy in Hawaii, and more specifically, in my view, the most beautiful islands of the Hawaiian archipelago in the island of Kauai. Of course, there's a little bit egoistic for a professor to move the seminar in a way of his own study, but I really wanted to use this occasion and this long afternoon here in Moscow and early morning in Honolulu to look at a few dimensions and more to listen than to talk myself today. First of all, we would discuss the exotic slash historic, which is the history of the Russian flag in Hawaii. And you may see here, at least those who are in the audience. I'm not sure how it will work with the camera, but I'm sure there are so many volunteers here, so they will be able to help. That this is the document from the archive of the Russian Foreign Ministry. You can also find it on the Russian Foreign Ministry website, signed by the Kauaian King Kamwali already some time ago in early 19th century, which provides the Russian Emperor Alexander Pavlovich Alexander the First as the owner of the island of Kauai forever, for the eternal times. Whether it was just adventurist thing or temporary historic or missed opportunity, I'm sure we will hear today more. The second element of our discussion is what I would call tragic slash historic. And this is the issue of annexation of Hawaii by the United States later in the 19th century. And I'm really pleased that we see here Professor Niklaus Schweitzer, who is a remarkable personality himself. And today we will look at Professor Schweitzer's book, which is called His Hawaiian Excellency, and of course the book which was translated into Russian and is present here. So for those who are present in this audience, the book is yours. if the author on the other side of the screen permits. I know
of course.
he will, and unfortunately no autographs directly today, but 7 years ago, Niklaus was really so good to come to Moscow himself and to share his views face-to-face with our colleagues at the Diplomatic Academy. But today we have his book. In English, this is my copy. I will not give it to you, but in Russian there are plenty. So please help yourselves. Those who prepared their remarks and comments already got the book. Others can grab a copy either right now or during the break or by the end of our seminar. So this is a seminar, but also a book launch, and I'm glad we will be doing it. We have been doing it. But it's not only exotic historic or tragic historic. The third element of today's discussion is current affairs / security. Hawaii as a U.S. Pacific Ocean fortress, missile tests, anti-submarine activities, which are executed from there against China and partly against my country. And of course, we're what Trump has called super-duper missiles have been tested on the same Kauai Pacific missile range, which borders the Russian Fort Yelizaveta. So the historic Russian part borders very clearly the current developments, and I know some of the participants will share their observations here. And last but not least, we will build a bridge from history into today and maybe even into tomorrow or the future. It is true that we need to resume bilateral scientific and cultural contacts between United States and Russia, and we of course expect the steps on the United States side here. But this is also true that here at MGIMO, many students are interested in U.S. foreign policy more broadly and view with much interest the expansionism of the United States, whether only the declaration or the declared steps, or maybe some real preparations, whether it's Panama Canal or Greenland or Canada, as our deputy foreign minister of Russia used to say recently. Canada is mostly joke, but others are mostly serious. So whether we agree with this or not, this is our academic discussion here, but I just bring it here to attention of all the audience. Dear colleagues, with that introduction is over. Yes, Hawaiian music will be back, but only in the break in accordance with the schedule. Now it's time to work and to talk. And I invite to the podium those who will discuss part one of our seminar, and the part one is the Russian flag story, which I called exotic / historic. We will have here two speakers. Mr. Kirill Prokhorov will speak on the topic from Krusenstern to Schäfer, to Georg Schäfer, a Russian footprint in Hawaiian Islands, up to 15 minutes. And then Ms. Anastasia Mirskaya will speak on the topic of Russian fortress in the heart of the Pacific. Russian fortress in the heart of the Pacific. Russia's footprint in Hawaiian history, up to 15 minutes. And I will provide some of my personal observations after that. May I invite Mr. Kirill Prokhorov to the podium, and would ask to help him with the mic, because we have translation and recording. We do need to use the mic at all the times.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's start. Good evening, everyone. I am opening our series of reports on Hawaii with the topic from Krusenstern to Schäfer, Russian footprint in Hawaiian Islands. However, this topic is much broader and does not end in Hawaii. We are going to talk about the main milestones of the development of Russian America, while my colleague Anastasia Mirskaya will focus on individual episodes of the interaction with, of the Russian Empire with other countries in Hawaii. Let's begin with the overview. With the movement of the borders of the Russian Empire to the east by the 18th century, travelers reached Kamchatka and began to cross the strait and explore America. In the 19th century, with the help of the Russian-American Company, which was the cornerstone of Russian America, development of overseas territories began. This included, of course, Hawaii, but as well as Alaska and California. The name associated with the Russian exploration of Hawaii is Georg Schäfer, whom we will talk about in particularly. But now let's begin with Russian navigation in the eastern seas. Throughout the 18th century, navigators and adventurers discovered new islands, straits, and horizons. In 1728, the Russian expedition led by Vitus Bering made a significant discovery of the strait between Asia and North America, which later became known as the Bering Strait in honor of its discoverer. In 1732, a significant milestone in Russian exploration was achieved when Mikhail Gvozdev and Ivan Fedorov became the first Europeans to reach the northwest coast of America and officially discovered Alaska. While in 1789, Grigory Shelikhov organized another important expedition that contributed to the further development and colonization of the Russian-American territories, along with numerous other exploratory missions that followed in subsequent years. But now let's focus on the first Russian circumnavigation, led by Adam von Krusenstern and Yuri Lysyansky, which took place from 1803 to 1806, which not only expanded the country's geographical knowledge, but also strengthened its presence on the global stage, including, of course, Hawaiian Islands in North America. Next, please. In the 19th century, with the help of the Russian-American Company, which was the cornerstone of Russian America, development of overseas territories began. The company was founded in 1797 by impoverished nobleman Nikolai Ryazanov, and already in 1799 by an official decree ukaz of Emperor Paul I, it received the status of the Russian-American Company under the high patronage of His Imperial Majesty. concluding trade with natives and carrying out an expanded colonization program. The first governor of the company was Alexander Baranov, which is on this slide. We know him as the first governor of the company, but it was under him that it began exploring Hawaii, the company. Discovered by James Cook in 1778, the first appearance of Russians in Hawaii dated back to 1804. The companies, the RAC companies, ships carried out navigation peacefully until in early 1815 the locals confiscated the cargo of the RAC from a ship that entered the port on the island of Kaumalia due to storm. In October, envoy Georg Schäfer was sent to release the cargo. Who is Dr. Schäfer and why is his name associated with Russian Hawaii? Georg Schäfer was a Russian doctor but born in Bavaria, and also he was even the master of the Masonic order. He was an adventurer whose journey took him far beyond conventional medical practice. He was also a physician, a chemist, a unique person actually. But his most notable encounter occurred when he met King Kamehameha I, or the Great, of Hawaii. During the meeting, Schäfer's skills were put to test as he successfully treated the king's heart condition, his heart disease, and his wife's fever. Impressed by these feats, Kamehameha granted Schäfer authorization to establish a trading post. The initiative culminated in the construction of 3 Russian forts, one of which was named Fort Elizabeth, you can see it on the slide, and made of stone, the only stone fort, while 2 others, Fort Alexander and Fort Barclay de Tolly, were wooden. Additionally, even 2 rivers were named after him and the country, Schäferstal, in name of Schäfer, and Don, named of river of Don of the central Russia. However, despite these accomplishments, tensions arose in 1917, leading to clashes with the interests of other countries, especially Americans. With that, we are slightly moving toward the next topic of my colleague. So I would like to sum up my thesis. To sum up this part of Russian presence in America and Hawaii, it continued the tradition of Russian navigation, began far long ago. And more than 1 point of the map were reached. This includes, as I said already, Hawaii, Alaska, California, and other points. Hawaii was become an important part for the Russian-American company in exploring America. And this very short-lived presence of Russian expeditions on the islands left a legacy that we still remember today. And most importantly, and which is the most important, relations were established with the people of Gawai, inter-people relations, which will never be forgotten, and still for now and for the future, I hope so. All in all, in 1821, the RAC recognized Hawaii as an area of the US interest and fully shifted its attention to California, which Fort Ross you can see here. On this point, I would like to thank you all for your attention and will be very pleased to discuss above mentioned issues later tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kirill. And now I invite Anastasia Mirskaya for her presentation. Master, please, the floor is yours.
So, hello everyone. I'm going to continue my colleague's report on the Russian footprint and the history of the Hawaii. Let's begin. Just a few words about historical context, as Kirill has already talked about it in detail. So at the beginning of the 19th century, the Russian Empire was actively expanding its influence in the Far East and in the Pacific Ocean. So Russian industrialists and merchants explored Alaska and Kuril Islands. So they were looking for new trade routes and new opportunities. And Hawaiian Islands, located in the intersection of sea routes, so they were a strategically important point for resupply and trade. So, next slide, please. If we are talking about the person, Georg Scheffer, so he played a key role in the history of Russian Hawaii, and in 1815 he was sent to the Hawaii to recover goods seized by Hawaiians from the sunken Russian ship, and he was acting as a representative of the Russian-American company, but he also has started to implement far more ambitious plans. The main points which Scheffer had an opportunity to reach. So he gained the trust of Kaumaali, the king of Kauai, and promising protection, Scheffer obtained land and building rights for fortifications and three Russian forts, Elizabeth, Alexander, and Berkeley, were built in Kauai. So Scheffer also signed a trade treaty and raised the Russian flag on Kauai, and this effectively made Kauai kind of a Russian protectorate in the Pacific Ocean. Next. What was the reasons why Scheffer tried to make such plan to realize them? So the Hawaiian Islands were a strategically vital location, as I've already mentioned. So controlling Hawaii, so this would have provided the Russian Empire with a stronger Pacific presence. So it was a chance to challenge British and United States dominance in this region. Furthermore, it also provided trade route control. It was a great ability to oversee trade between Asia, America, and Europe. Moreover, as already I've mentioned, it was a great way to found there a resupply point, because it was really convenient location for Russian ships traveling to and from Alaska to restock and repair. And last but not least, Hawaii had not only wonderful climate, but it also has a number, at least numerous natural resources, like valuable varieties of wood, especially sandalwood. So next. If we discuss the geopolitical context and interest of the great powers, apart from the Russian Empire, the Pacific Ocean was also a point of interest of other great powers which tried to expand their influence and territories. So it was such countries as Great Britain, Spain, United States. If we are talking about Great Britain, it's well known that it dominated the seas, controlled trade routes, and possessed extensive colonies in Asia, like India and Australia. So Great Britain closely monitored any attempts by other powers to expand their influence in the Pacific. It's also important not to forget about Spain. It was a powerful colonial power state, but it started to gradually lose its position, but still controlled vast territories in Latin America and Philippines. And also, last but not least, United States, a young and very ambitious nation, striving to expand westward and strengthen its influence in North America and in the Pacific Ocean. So, United States had a special interest in the Hawaiian Islands, and because it was also a very important location for trade and whaling. Next. So, by 1870, Schaeffer's position in Hawaii had become unstable. So there were several reasons for this instability. The Kaumoalia, the king of Kauai, so he saw that Russian Empire is not very interested in providing promised military assistance, and he feared that tensions with King Kamehameha the first will lead to some struggles, and so he began to doubt in sincerity of Schaeffer's intentions, and his support weakened. Furthermore, Schaeffer faced with economic problems. He was unable to establish profitable trade promises by the Russian-American company. So this caused some kind of discontent and disappointment among the Hawaiians who hoped for economic benefits from cooperation with Russian Empire. Also, Schaeffer faced with external pressure because American and European merchants continued to put pressure on Kamehameha I, inciting him to get rid of Russian influence. So, because Russian presence in the Hawaii was reported in the foreign press and discussed as kind of in very negative context, because even American newspapers were discussing that Russians would soon be in all parts of all over the world. So in 1860, just 4 months after the Russian flag was hoisted over Kauai, the Americans began provoking some kind of conflict. So the Americans who lived in Kauai or boarded their ships at the island's ports, they began spreading rumors that Russia and the United States are under the conflict, and even the Russian envoy was expelled from Washington. So this was complete disinformation, but it worked. So it worked and spoiled the king's relationships with Schaeffer. So why was Russian footprint presence so brief? There were several reasons. The first and probably the main one was lack of support from St. Petersburg and logistic problems. So the Russian Empire experienced enormous logistical difficulties in maintaining its remote possessions because shipping goods and reinforcements from St. Petersburg to Hawaii was an extremely difficult and expensive task. Furthermore, indeed, in the first half of his reign, Alexander I saw Russian America as a part of a larger plan to turn to the North Pacific Ocean to make it controlled by the Russian Navy. However, after the Congress in Vienna, he changed his attitude to this region and lost interest. So the Schaeffer's activity, his ambitious plans, so he acted indeed without sufficient material and diplomatic support from the emperor, and this was a real problem. And also another problem, as I already mentioned, was the pressure from United States and from local resistance. American and European merchants were not very interested in the Russian competitors, so they put pressure on Kamehameha I and convincing him to expel Schaeffer and stop cooperation with Russian Empire. So Schaeffer's activities aroused suspicion and discontent of him with the king and local Hawaiians. Next. So summarizing, in 1817, Schaeffer was forced to leave Hawaii, and the Russian fortresses were destroyed. So it was the end of the Russian protectorate and the beginning of the new page of the in the history of the Hawaiian Islands, and it was a story that eventually led to the annexation of the Hawaii by the United States, and my colleagues probably will tell you in more detail about this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nastya. Actually, both Kirill and Nastya did the work so well that for me it's not that much to add here, but maybe a few explanatory notes why you see all these pictures here, and also why I had started digging deeper into the Russian Hawaii or Russian Kauai history. Actually, things always start with some simple reason. No, I was not born with the idea that I want to explore more about Russian presence in Hawaii, and I think, like most of yourselves, from my GIMO years, I was not aware of the fact that Russian flag was ever put on Hawaii. As most of our students of international relations, I did know, of course, about Russian America, about Russian California, about Alaska. This is what we all were familiar with, and with the studies of Mr. Bolkhovitinus on Russian America. So my surprise was huge when I was traveling across Hawaiian Islands, and you can find some beauty of these islands here, and came to the westmost island on the major Hawaiian Islands, which is called Kauai. In fact, you may be familiar, maybe not necessarily familiar with this geography. This is an old map. This is island of Hawaii, or everybody calls it Big Island. This is where volcanoes are. And it's beautiful. When we had a flight with my friend and colleague from GIMO, Professor Alexander Nikitin, in a small airplane, overviewing how the fields of actually not the fields, the lava was flowing from there. It's also true that you can do the downhill skiing in the island of Hawaii, because there is lots of snow up in the mountains. So very unusual, big island, as it is called. Well, there are some more, and the capital of Hawaii is located not at the biggest island, in the island of Oahu. This is where Honolulu is, where the Pearl Harbor is. So this is here. There are island of Maui, Molokai is a very peaceful island with almost no tourism. So I enjoyed myself there, almost in the solitude. Island of Lanai, where millionaires play golf. It's flat. And this is the island of, on the old map, it's Atuai, it's Kauai Island, which is the centerpiece of our story now. And in the early 19th century, there was no united Hawaiian kingdom. right? So the great king Kamehameha controlled most of the islands, but not Kauai, which had, as Nastya explained to us, its own king, which is called Kaumoali. His name was Kaumoali. And this is where Russians were most welcome, although not for the long period of time. The Fort Yelizaveta, which is still an American landmark and national park, I hope it's still there, although there were attempts to question that status. It's on the southern part here. And this is, well, you saw also Nastya's pictures. This is how it looks like. It's quite arid area. And these are all my pictures from there. And of course, not much was left, except for the rocks, for the stones, because when Russians left, there were American missionaries who appeared, who took Russian-grown grapes to make American Hawaiian wine. And to basically to baptize Hawaiians into Christianity. But Fort Yelizaveta, named after Alexander, Tsar Alexander as consort, is still there. As Anastasia correctly mentioned, on the northern tip, there was the Fort Alexander, where is now Sheraton Hotel, but there is a plate commemorating the existence, and there was the Barclay de Tolly Fortress. To explore them, I normally the places where they've been located, I normally took a kayak through the Kauaian rivers. And actually, Anton Schäfer, or Anton Georg Schäfer, who was mentioned here, of course, a German, a Bavarian, on the service of the Russian Tsars, on the Russian Tsar Alexander the First, he was given by King Kaumoali some parts in his own ownership and was not a modest guy. So he named the most beautiful part of Kauai, the Hanalei Valley. He renamed it as Schäfertal. And it was so for 2 or 3 years where Dr. Schäfer was growing different fruits and preparing that valley to be further developed. So these are some parts of history, and it was actually very correct to say, to mention that it was not that long history. Americans pushed the Russians out of Kauai. Mostly it were the whalers, then the missionaries came, and Russians had to withdraw. But the idea was, and I think both Kirill and Nastya mentioned it very clearly, it was a geopolitical idea to turn North Pacific into the Russian inner lake. So it was not that naive or purely adventurous idea as it may sound today. How you could do it? Of course, Russians already developed Kamchatka. Then it was Russian Alaska. Then it was Fort Ross in Russian California. And you need to lock that part. And the only way to lock it was through Hawaii, or at least one of the islands. So this is how Alexander I could have had for Russia the whole North Pacific as the Russian lake. And generally, St. Petersburg authorities were interested in that to a certain extent. Russian-American company was extremely interested. This is the flag of Russian-American company, which is found in a museum in Kauai. It is still preserved there. The Russian traders were very interested in having that in the lake for clear purposes and push Americans out of that, as well as the Brits. So it was a fight in a certain way. Plus, Governor Baranov of the Russian America, who was mentioned very correctly, he was aging, and he sent his son together with Schaeffer, probably to explore the place for a nice tropical retirement for him. So it was a little bit of everything here. It's not either or, it's a little bit of both. There is geopolitics and strategy. There was, of course, adventurism of Dr. Schaeffer for sure. And then there was some views of the Russian-American company leadership, both with the trade, but also with, well, the market. China was nearby. China was the main market for the sea otter furs from California, so you also needed Hawaii there on the way. China was dictating the demand at those times. Yeah, and of course it was just good climate. It's breezy there. It's not that diabolically hot. Hawaii is famous for its beaches, but also it's famous for its very healthy weather, which was of interest for the Russian traders from Russian America, because the climate in Alaska was not necessarily as friendly as in Hawaii. But Tsar Alexander I, by the times when Schaeffer put the flag and made the King Kaumali put his agreement cross here on the document, was already a different person than he was during the war with Napoleon. Much more philosophical and I would say more isolationist rather than expansionist. He did not believe that Russia would manage to keep it. Whether he was wrong or whether he was right, it's a different question. He probably was right, because Russia not necessarily could project its power as far as North Pacific strongly. And actually, we only can make many ifs now from the history. Russia lost Alaska. Russia sold Fort Ross to a Swiss American, not very expensively, later on. So the question is, if Russia would have kept Kauai, whether it would have changed the pattern, and it would have been easier to keep and control both Alaska and Russian California, or not necessarily. Now it's interesting to speculate whether Alexander I was right or wrong, but his decision was very clear. We do not intervene. These are not our affairs, so Dr. Schaeffer, please come back. And in history, Schaeffer, of course, was trying to find Alexander I in Europe, trying to approach him again and again, explaining him. And of course, Germans were everywhere in the Russian court. The foreign minister was Mr. Nesselrode, who for 25 years, I think, And he was not interested in Dr. Schäfer's offer either. He said, the emperor didn't want it, I don't want it, all those Germans. So in that sense, that part of story was over. Russia was never fully back to Hawaiian Islands, although Professor Schweitzer would tell us the history of the Russian diplomatic relationship with the Kingdom of Hawaii, and this is here in this book. So for your further travels into the Russia-Hawaii history, or for those who didn't do it yet, or for those who are interested, we brought a few copies of my article in Международная жизнь magazine on the Hawaiian Russian part of history. And I also have to should mention that it was translated into English by Международная жизнь, so there are some English copies as well. It's available, of course, on the website. So I show you this picture, some of this. This is the Don River. Yeah, this is, now it's called Hanapepe, but it's Don. This is where it flows. So not a very impressive picture, but very slow, peaceful. This is how it looks like. This is not necessarily related to a Russian part of the history, but this is a beautiful part in the eastern part of Kauai. And when we come to current affairs, not far from this place, there were Mr. Zuckerberg, and not in the 19th century, but now had built the most expensive mansion on the planet. But surprise, surprise, the mansion is not on the up, but also a few floors down. And this is, to my knowledge, added with the most expensive nuclear shelter in the world for Mr. Zuckerberg, also in the island of Kauai. I was just hiking nearby those places and was quite impressed with that construction, and you can find on the internet some workers leaked more information on that adventure. This is the reconstruction of the Russian Fort Yelizaveta. This is how it probably had looked like when Russians put the flag, but now it's non-existent like this. This is one of my favorites in Kauai, because it's not only about Russian history, this is also about very beautiful nature. There is the highest swamp in the world there, Alakai Swamp, so it's for hikers, it's a great place. You would never see so much mud as you can find there. Very challenging, and this is one of the most challenging hikes in the world over here on the Napali coast of Kauai, and I'm sitting here just thinking whether I should take the next step or probably should withdraw. This is a beautiful map of Kauai, so in the break you may want to explore it. I brought it from there. And last but not least, what are these people doing here with the Russian flag? This is where we gathered when it was the 200th anniversary of the raising of the Russian flag in the island of Kauai. We, meaning the Russians who live in Hawaii now, Russians coming from other parts of the United States, our Orthodox priest made prayers there. We had a crew from the Russian state television there, visitors from the Russian foreign ministry. So it was a very impressive conference we managed to organize in Kauai through the initiative not of Moscow, but of the Russian Americans of today. Of course, later on, the history was not so sweet, but more sour, because under different pretexts, the authorities of state of Hawaii and American federal authorities started questioning the cultural activities of the Russians there. The FBI visited the houses of those Americans who participated in these activities. So there is a lot of history, there are a lot of common things to do, but in recent years, American authorities became to be a little bit nervous about why Russia starts to look into its history, even suggesting that the Yelizaveta Fort name, which is official American landmark, should be renamed. I hope that the new turn of Russian-American relations would allow us to enjoy culturally our history and our heritage here. With that, I will stop, and we will have time for your comments and maybe questions to the participants. But the program tells me that we need to move on with that and move to part 2. And I want to make sure that, yes, our online participants are online and the connection is a good one, because this is now time to move on to the story of American annexation of the Hawaiian Kingdom. I must say that the novel by Niklaus Schweitzer, his Hawaiian Excellency, which I read both in English and in Russian, in a wonderful translation of Irina Kalaturkina. I must say that it's much more complex, and some of you already had an opportunity to read it. So it's much more complex than just the story of annexation. But the story of annexation, because well, some action goes on the territory of Russia, in fact, and it starts with the Hawaiians visiting Russia. So thank you, Niklaus, for so well describing Russia of the 19th century besides Hawaii. But of course, the main drama is closer to the end of the book when, in my view, completely illegally, Hawaiian kingdom was annexed by the United States. I could continue, but I would not, because we have our speaker who is waiting in a line. It is my pleasure to give the floor to Professor Niklaus Schweitzer, historian, writer, who would help us here with better understanding of Hawaiian history, but also with a launch of his book, which is a novel, but is based on the archival documents. Later on, it will be commented by Alexander Gromov with his presentation, From Kingdom to State, the fate of Hawaii between literary image and historical reality. Please, Niklaus, floor is yours.
Spasiba большое, Professor Orlov. And thank you so much for your kind words. Dami и господа, добрый вечер. I'm very happy to participate in this most important conference and seminar. I remember the two conferences we attended, namely the one in Kauai 2017 and the one in Moscow in 2018. Most interesting. I just would like to add something about Scheffer. Scheffer did not give up, even after the Tsar kind of nixed his plans, Alexander I. Scheffer proposed to buy the island of Niihau, and Niihau belonged to the Kingdom of Kauai. Kingdom of Kauai at that time was a kind of a vassal state of Kamehameha's kingdom, but it was separate until 1822. And by the way, Volodya, you know, the Hawaiian you met in the Marquesas, K.O. Nee Smith, he recently discovered that he is a direct descendant of King Kaumoali'i of Kauai. And he stood model for a monument to King Kaumoali'i, which was put up just recently on Kauai. So these things are still with us. And we should not forget them. Also, since you mentioned Switzerland, which I had the honor to represent here for 38 years as honorary consul, Scheffer had the plan to bring in farmers from Glarus, the canton of Glarus, in more or less eastern Switzerland. And how would that have been if several dozens or maybe even 100 or more Glarner had been sent to Kauai and had helped with agriculture there? But of course, that came to nothing also. So much for that. Now we'll get to the book, which, as you said, was so ably translated by Dr. Kolotekina. The hero is Colonel Piehu Iaukea, Hawaiian, and his rank was in the Hawaiian Army. So he was a colonel in the Hawaiian Army. And he was the main diplomat of, one of the major diplomats of King Kalakaua. And he was sent together with another diplomat, Henry Poor. That sounds very English or American, but he was also Hawaiian. The names are quite deceiving here. You have many Hawaiians with German names, with Chinese names, with English names, but they're still Hawaiian. So he and Henry Poor were sent by Kalakaua to the coronation of Alexander III. Why was that? Kalakaua had been crowned king in 1883, the same year, and there was a Russian delegation, Russian warship, which participated in the coronation ceremony, and therefore Russia extended an invitation to Kalakaua to attend the coronation of Alexander III. But he thought that he should be at home, and so he sent a diplomatic delegation to Moscow. And that's an important part of the book which I wrote that deals with the coronation. Now, the whole thing was because Hawaii realized that as a small country in the middle of the Pacific, to survive as an independent state, you had to maintain a solid diplomatic and consular representation around the globe. And most people are surprised when they hear that Hawaii had no fewer than 130 diplomatic and consular missions in the second half of the 19th century. Now, most of those were honorary consulates, but it also had legations. It had a legation in Paris, legation in Tokyo, legation in Washington, D.C., legation in London, and so forth. And the consuls often had the same privileges as envoys, or today it would be ambassadors. So this was a very flexible system. And it worked until 1893, when Queen Liliuokalani was overthrown. Now, by whom was she overthrown? I always have to explain this to my students because nobody knows. And that's why I wrote the book, incidentally, because I discovered sometime in the 1970s that almost nobody knew the history anymore here. It was almost completely gone from the screen, if you will. And I always thought somebody had to tell it because it's so gripping and so meaningful, and it ultimately deals with religion. It's a religious problem. Why a religious problem? Because of the missionaries. Now, the missionaries, who were the missionaries? The missionaries came in 1820 from Boston. They were Calvinists, but they were inspired by ideas which were formed in my hometown, Zurich. We had, you know, the story of Luther, 1517, the Reformation and all of that. And then we had a reformer in Zurich by the name of Ulrich Zwingli. I'm a descendant of Zwingli, by the way. And he had some very interesting ideas as to how religion should be interpreted. And he influenced Calvin in Geneva. So then we have the Calvinists. Calvin had several students. One of them was John Knox, who was a Scotsman, and he brought Calvinism to Scotland. And from Scotland, it reached England. From England, it reached America by way of the Mayflower. And then 200 years later, 1820, Calvinist missionaries came to Hawaii. And if you know anything about Calvinism, they're just at the opposite pole of Russian Orthodoxy. If you have the spectrum of Christianity, they are hardworking, they are very disciplined. They, in the 19th century, were anti-monarchic because of the history of England. And so you had an element of Christians who brought the new God to the Hawaiians because they had discarded their own religion just a few months before the missionaries arrived, which is extraordinary. Question why they did this, we could have another seminar on that one. But they discarded their own religion, so there was a religious vacuum into which sailed these brave missionaries who had gone around Cape Horn, which is no picnic. But they brought with them anti-monarchic ideas. Now, in Tahiti, the missionaries were much earlier, but they were London Missionary Society people. They were pro-monarchy. So they supported the Tahitian monarchy, whereas the missionaries that came to Hawaii essentially were against the monarchy, with the exception of two missionaries who were really exemplary and did exactly what all of the rest should have done. And then all these things would not have happened, overthrow and so forth. So anyway, when we talk about the situation here, then it is basically a religious problem. That's what we should understand, and therefore it goes so deep. And the feelings go extremely deep with many Hawaiians to this day. So we should also realize that. Anyway, so we have the diplomatic mission to Moscow, and our hero, Iaukea and Henry Poor were deeply impressed by the beauty and the power of Russia, but they also noticed that there were some young people who were not very happy. We're talking about the nihilists, and I feature in the novel One of them, namely Tanya, who studied in Zurich, because some of them really did study in Zurich. And the funny thing is that my great-grandfather, who was president of the University of Zurich, he received these young students from Russia, and one of them even wrote about her reception by my great-grandfather and what they discussed. And so we have again a link to Zurich by way of Nigilist students who studied at the University of Zurich, came from Moscow and St. Petersburg. So you see how universal this whole topic really is. Now then, Krusenstern was mentioned, and we have a picture of the monument, which you have in St. Petersburg, not too far from the University of St. Petersburg. So Jenny, if you are there, can you show the picture of Krusenstern? Here we go. Oh, yeah, okay, here's Krusenstern, right. And I'm sure many of you saw that. Now, on the socket of this monument, there is a Japanese and a Hawaiian, or it might be a Marquesan, because the first Hawaiians came from the Marquesas, just with a mala, with a loincloth. And that again shows the importance of the first Russian circumnavigation and the connection to Hawaii. And then we had the first picture, which we should have shown before, namely, where is Hawaii really located? So Jenny, let's show that. So here we are. We have the Polynesian Triangle, which goes from the Hawaiian Islands to New Zealand, and then from there to Rapa Nui, also known as Easter Island. So these are the Polynesian islands. They are closely linked linguistically, culturally. They had the same gods, very similar languages. If you speak Hawaiian, you can easily pick up Tahitian, for instance. And then we have the other two groups in the Pacific talking about the native people, namely the Melanesians, dark-skinned in the southwestern Pacific, and then above, a little bit more to the north, but also in the tropics, Micronesia, the Micronesians. So these are three distinct cultural groups. And then came all the people from the rest of the world. So I think this is an impressive picture, and it shows how huge the Pacific is. It's more than 30% of the surface of the world. Many people think it's a blue void. Nothing is there, just a few little islands. But ever since Epeli Hau'ofa's great essay, A Sea of Islands, which he wrote in 1993, we know that the Pacific Islanders see things very differently. They say, we are the center of the universe and everybody else is on the periphery. Just the opposite from the attitude which most of us have or had. So that is also important. Well, the arrival of Captain Cook and then of Krusenstern and several other navigators spelled what we could call the end of classical Hawaii, which began around 900. There were two migrations to the islands, the first from the Marquesas around 350 AD or so, the second around 900. The second established the hierarchical system of ali'i, aristocrats, kings, mo'i, very strict hierarchy, also a strict hierarchy in religion with the kahuna nui on top, the high priest. And all of that functioned until Captain Cook arrived, and even longer. It functioned until Kamehameha the Great died on May 8th, 1819, because he remained loyal to his gods. But once he was dead, some of his wives, he had 30, by the way, 30 wives altogether, conspired and said, we have to get rid of the old religion. Reason, most likely, although Kamehameha was an exemplary king and loyal to his gods, 4 major gods and 40,000 gods altogether, he lost 50% of his population to infectious diseases, which nobody really understood. And so there was a kind of religious fatigue, and also the people from Europe and Russia and so forth, and America, they did not get these diseases so lightly, of course not because they had immunity. So the idea was perhaps the God of those people is stronger than our God. And so they discarded the Kapu system, the old religion. Now, talk about the old religion. We have a painting of a goddess who is still being respected by many here, namely the goddess of the volcanoes. Pele, fiery, dangerous, but also constructive, because without the volcanoes, Hawaii would not exist. That's by Herb Kane, a native painter of great weight. Now we get to Ludwig Georg Corres. He should definitely be mentioned. He was on the Rurik expedition, Otto von Kotzebue, the second Russian circumnavigation, and they spent 3 weeks in Hawaii in 1816 and 2 weeks in 1817. And they had a young artist aboard, German, of German origin. You know, the Germans are all over the place in Russia, as you know, and I'm struggling with Russian, the Russian language, and I'm amazed how many German words you have in Russian. All over them. Yeah, that's really interesting. Anyway, so he was a German, but born in Russia. In fact, he was raised in Kharkov, and then studied at the academy in St. Petersburg. And he illustrated the voyage around the world of the Rurik. And we have a picture of the Rurik, I think. Rurik. Jenny, Rurik. Well, we don't have it right now. I hope we have it later. It's a scene where the Rurik meets islanders from the Cook Islands, and the Russians are in top hats and frock coats, and the islanders, of course, in their normal costumes. They're not wearing very much, but both are waving at one another, and this is very symbolic for all these meetings between the native peoples and the newcomers. And I always wondered, how did they communicate? And when you study this, and since I'm lucky enough to speak Hawaiian, there were many misunderstandings. They seemed to understand each other on the surface, but actually, right from the beginning, there was one misunderstanding after the other. And in a way, this is still true today. So we have these very different views of the world. The Cook Islands, for instance, recently opened an embassy in Fiji. There was a ceremony. You can download this on YouTube. And the then president of Fiji, no, he was prime minister at the time, he said, well, you know, we islanders, we see the big powers trying to project their influences in this ocean, but we see things totally differently. We are all in the same boat. We are all friends. All the islanders have the same interests. And that's our ocean, and that's how we see it. And the Cook Islands, they have only, I think, 15,000 people, but they have diplomatic posts all over the world also. Oh, here we go now. This is this famous picture. You see the St. Andrews flag of the Russian Navy. The Russians, you people in top hats and frock coats, and the islanders of Penguin Island, one of the 15 islands of the Cooks. And this is how we should see meetings between these two sides, which in many ways were positive, in other ways not so positive. Here we have the reception by King Kamehameha and his favorite wife, I think, Ka'ahumanu, receiving the Kotzebue expedition. You have Captain Kotzebue, you have the first mate, the first officer, second officer. You have Chamisso, a German romanticist of French origin. He had to leave France because of the revolution. And he wrote the first grammar of the Hawaiian language. Again, very international. And then with his drawing book in his hand, you have Chorus himself. In the background, you have the uroki. And you have a Hawaiian heiau, meaning a Hawaiian temple, because the old religion is still in force. This is 1816. Then we have the hula, famous hula, lifeblood of the Hawaiians, as Kalakaua said. Jenny, if you scroll down a little bit, we'll get to the hula. Yeah, here. Okay, again, the Russians all dressed up, and the Hawaiians dancing what is a center of their culture. Still true today. Hula is extremely important. Okay. Those are these meetings between the two sides. Now, very important, Kamehameha III, who reigned from 1825 to 1854. He understood that in order to remain independent, Hawaii had to become a modern state. So it had to adopt institutions like Constitution, which it did in 1840, one of the early constitutions in the world. He had to have a modern court system. They had to have a diplomatic establishment with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. They had to carry out the land reform because the land originally belonged to the gods and then to the king, but they had to privatize, which they also did. They had to have a national flag, which already Kamehameha established, by the way. And the flag is very interesting because it has the colors of all the potential colonizers, red, white, and blue. But it also has symbols of the old religion. So the old religion is still with us, not only with Pele, but also the Hawaiian flag, as it is today. And all of this was well understood. And he wanted a recognition, an official recognition of Hawaii's independence. So he sent a diplomatic delegation to Paris, to London, to Brussels, even before the EU, and to Washington, D.C. And the delegation was highly interesting. The leader was a Hawaiian aristocrat, Timoteo Ha'alilio. The second person of the three-person delegation was a former missionary, one of those two missionaries who really understood Hawaiian culture, I think, William Richards. And the third was the Governor General of the Hudson's Bay Company. Now we talk about British North America, because the Brits, while they lost the 13 colonies, they kept the northern part of the American continent. And that's Canada today. And since we'll also talk about Canada, that's an interesting link to realize. But why would the Hudson's Bay Company, which dealt in furs, be interested in Hawaiian independence? Well, they had a subsidiary here selling all kinds of things. And Hawaii was what the French called an entrepot. Entrepot is an open port. So everybody could come, everybody was welcome, everybody could conduct business here. And therefore, the Hudson's Bay Company had an interest in achieving a formal declaration of Hawaii's independence, which came about by Britain and France in a joint declaration on November 28th of 1843. And that became Hawaiian Independence Day. And today, some people, again, celebrate this day. In fact, even the university here, a few years ago, we had the flag of Hawaii and the US. And on Hawaiian Independence Day, I was amazed when I walked to the president's office to see that only the Hawaiian flag was flying. Amazing. That's the university. So in any case, then we get to all these kinds of treaties which Hawaii concluded, including a treaty, a convention of commerce and navigation with your country, Russia, the 7th of June of 1869, actually modern calculation, the 19th of June, signed in Paris by the Count E. de Stackelberg, of course from Estonia, Stackelberg. Those are the Germans, which you have there, as you know. And he was the Russian ambassador. And C. de Varigny, Hawaii's foreign minister. So that is also, how much more time do I have? Hello.
Yeah, Niklaus, just to make sure that you hear me. You probably have up to 5 minutes, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Thank you.
Have what is very important here. Part of the culture is the Hawaiian music, and you played Brother Is before we officially opened here, and of course I loved Brother Is, Kamaka Viva Ole. We have the palace, Royal Palace, who is more than a museum. It's really a symbol of everything. And we have beautiful music played in the palace, and we just show 3 minutes of that. Three minutes of music in the palace. Here, that's the throne room of Iolani Palace. And here we go. Palace from the outside. King Kalakaua in his uniform. Lopaka Casimiro, one of the famous singers we have.
ika inia kamana Pai mai ho i mai o e ala ho ene i ka po Pai mai ho i mai o e ane i ka ua e la ia
Okay. That's and I will end with a reading by our great translator, very brief reading. So let's have that from the book. The opening scene. We are at the Royal Mausoleum. They celebrate the birthday of the Queen. That happens every year on September 2nd, and that's how the book starts. And so, Jenny, the opening scene, please. Read by our translator. And then I'm sure you have lots of questions, ultimately. Very complex history.
100 лет назад, когда родилась королева Лилиуокалани, город Гонолулу был чуть больше деревни. Считанные каменные постройки выделялись на фоне множества хижин, крытых травой пили. Жизнь текла неторопливо и размеренно. Докладчик продолжал, слова ложились легко, интонации мягкие и мелодичные, казалось, вобрали в себя тепло островов южных морей. Сидевший в первом ряду пожилой человек с длинными, аккуратно зачесанными назад седыми волосами прикрыл глаза под толстыми очками. Накинутый на темный костюм плащ из красных и желтых перьев с орнаментом в форме полумесяца указывал на его принадлежность к обществу дочерей и сыновей гавайских воинов, потомков великих вождей и священнослужителей. Лилиуокалани, подумал он, как дочь великого вождя Капаакеа, она поистине каждой своей клеточкой была королевой и представляла гавайскую нацию в наилучшем смысле слова.
Спасибо большое.
Было великолепное утро. Солнце стояло почти в зените и окрашивало все вокруг в насыщенные цвета, столь характерные для тропических островов Тихого океана. Лишь несколько белых облачков, лениво проплывавших над горой Коалау, выделялись на ярко-голубом небе. Перед неоготической часовней за кафедрой докладчика возвышался небольшой мраморный обелиск, увенчанный им короной. Под ним располагался склеп короля Калакаоа. Тщательно выгравированная на камне надпись гласила «В память правителей и верховных вождей Гавайи». За спиной он чувствовал присутствие высшего света, женщин в регалиях и представительных мужчин. В первых рядах сидели члены Королевского ордена Камеха-Меха, пользующиеся преимуществами наивысшего ранга. На свежевыкрашенном флагштоке свободно реял гавайский флаг. Последние монархисты были в сборе, и монархия, казалось, на короткое время вновь ожила.
Окей, спасибо большое.
Thank you very much, Professor Schweitzer. Thank you very much, Niklaus, for bringing us both the history parts of your book, Russian language, and Hawaiian music mixed like a very good Mai Tai should be mixed in a very right proportion. So thank you for that. And before I give floor to Alexander Gromov, I also would like to turn back to your book, which, as I mentioned, describes the last days of the Hawaiian history. And from your original edition in English, this is how your protagonist is thinking out loud about what happened when Hawaiian Kingdom was annexed by the United States. The Treaty of Annexation, notwithstanding McKinley's efforts, it was never ratified because the two-thirds majority in the Senate required by the Constitution did not materialize. The president and his supporters in Congress had to use the subterfuge of a joint resolution. So there was no treaty of annexation, and there never would be one. Who had ever thought that anything at all was legal about the annexation of Hawaii to the United States? Former President Cleveland expressed his distaste without mincing words. Quote of President Cleveland: "Hawaii is ours. As I contemplate the means used to complete the outrage, I am ashamed of the whole affair." Unquote. And now I give the floor to Sasha Gromov. Up to 15 minutes, please, no more than that.
Thank you. Dear colleagues, good afternoon again. I'm going to give you a brief description of historical context of Hawaiian annexation by the United States and say a few words about book His Hawaiian Excellency. So, on June 14, 1900, Hawaii was granted the status of a self-governing territory of the United States, and 59 years later became the 5th American state. And although more than 100 years have passed, the issue of self-determination for the Hawaiian people remains relevant today. So, let's discuss the history of the United States and Hawaii relations. American business circles, appreciating both the island's advantageous strategic position in the Pacific Ocean and their natural wealth, began creeping expansion in the mid-19th century. In a message to Congress in December 1842, US President John Tyler, noting that large economic interests of American businessmen in Hawaii, stated that any attempt by another power to take control on the islands, colonize them, and overthrow the government will certainly provoke the displeasure of the United States. President Tyler made a number of disclaimers that the United States itself was in no way going to annex the islands, but most of it was intended for France and Britain. This message entered into the historiography under the name of the Thailand Doctrine. In fact, it was the equivalent of the Monroe Doctrine for Latin America, and in fact, the fate of the Kingdom of Hawaii was predetermined. The Hawaiian Islands were of the interest to the USA mainly because of their location. In addition, the United States was concerned about the possibility of a European protectorate over Hawaii. In particular, Britain and France demanded that Hawaii conclude protectionist treaties with them and grant them serious economic privileges. In the 14th of the 19th century, the USA tried to negotiate with Hawaii and fix its privileges, and also addressed to Britain and France with proposals to limit the interest of other states in Hawaii. In 1849, the United States and the Kingdom of Hawaii finally reached a treaty of friendship that governed relations between them. So, by the end of the 19th century, American business was deeply rooted in Hawaii. For example, having bought all the sugar plantations on the islands, I should note that immigrant workers from Southeast Asia and Europe were actively imported to work on these plantations. It was the 17th of the 19th century that they started to talk about the need to annex the islands. Already in March 1873, U.S. Secretary of State Hamilton Fish wrote a letter to U.S. Ambassador Franklin Pierce with the recommendations to actively support the mood on the islands in favor of joining the United States. Two other documents that facilitated creeping colonization should not be overlooked. In 1875, the Kingdom of Hawaii concluded a bounded economic treaty with the United States, which provided free access to the United States market for sugar and other products grown in the islands. In return, the US was guaranteed that Hawaii would not cede or lease any of its land to other foreign powers, which of course was not in the economic interests of Hawaii. 9 years later, at the renewal of this treaty in 1884, Washington was able to gain a more serious foothold on the islands by establishing a military base there, and a year later, the kingdom leased Pearl Harbor Bay to the United States. Britain and France resisted, issuing a protest against it, but it was too late. In 1892, after a group of Hawaiian politicians led by Queen Liliu Kalani made new attempts to protect the independence of their country by proposing a new constitution. But this text was not adopted. Following this, an American envoy wrote a letter to the United States government urging it to hurry up the annexation of the islands. And in January 1893, a group of American planters, supported by US Navy, launched a state coup and overthrew Queen Liliuokalani, forming a puppet republic that did not exist for long. But not everything went as planned. US President Grover Cleveland condemned the overthrow of Queen Liliuokalani and attempted to rectify the situation by apologizing to her and withdrawing the annexation agreement from the state. However, his actions were not enough to stop the unavoidable. And in final, the Kingdom of Hawaii was annexed. So, thank you. Speaking about the book by Nicholas Schwarzer, His Hawaiian Excellency, I wanted to note that this is a deep and critical study which introduces the reader to the dramatic story of the last years of the Hawaiian Kingdom and the tragic events that led to its annexation, which I described above. Moreover, the book, in my opinion, reconstructs the context of late 19th century Hawaii, where the interests of the native population, European settlers, and American business people seeking to expand their influence coexist and clash. I think that during the study of history, it's always very important to immerse yourself in the context of the period. It gives a better understanding of the motivations of both the state and the individuals. And in my opinion, this book allows us to understand how people of those times lived, how they felt, and what sacrifices they had to make. From routine diplomatic but such important work and the meetings with key political figures of those times to intellectual conversations with different members of society in different countries, it's all written with a great respect. And as the great Russian writer Mikhail Bulgakov wrote, without respect, a man can't exist. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alexander. And of course, that was both a very information-rich presentation and also with a very emotional finishing of it. I think it's also a good note for our break now. We will have only 10 minutes for a break, and we will reconvene here at 7:35 Moscow time in 10 minutes from now to have our final session and conclusions. Thank you all for your presentations, and to be continued. Thank you. Okay, I hope our online translation goes on without any problem. I do see Professor Schweitzer on the screen. I did see before the break 2 of my dual degree students from Russia and from the United States who are now in New York and in California, respectively, if I'm correct. Now we move to the final part of our discussion, and we would have 2 speakers, Ms. Anastasia Nikulina and Mr. Ruslan Belozersky. Anastasia will address the topic From Paradise Island to Important Geopolitical Point, the current situation in Hawaii. And of course, I must emphasize that neither Anastasia nor anyone here among the students is expert in Hawaiian affairs or has not been before this seminar. I see the situation progressing well. Of course, Anastasia has been working on the recent materials, but we may also benefit from the colleagues who are now in Hawaii. We are not. And Mr. Ruslan Belozersky will speak on the American craving. Why does the U.S. need Greenland, Panama, and Canada? That gives us some food for thought about how history of U.S. expansionism may translate into the current day of the Trump administration. Of course, there are some parallels, but there may be many huge differences here. We do not want to make it too simplistic here, but we are all curious why U.S. needs Greenland and Panama, or Panama Canal, of course, here. And we would not pretend that we know all the answers. We try a little bit to look into that. I would ask each of the participants to stick strictly to the up to 15 minutes time limit to allow us at least some discussion. We will not have time for much discussion, but we may try to take a couple of questions immediately after that, or comments. Nastya is here, so please welcome.
Thank everyone for your attention. In advance, I'm going to tell you about current situation in Hawaii. And earlier today we got a great overview of Hawaii's history. But what about now? I suggest to...
The mic is on?
Yes.
I can hear you, but I want to make sure.
Yes, it's on.
Everybody online.
Can you hear me? Thank you. So I suggest we'll find out what place Hawaii take in today's U.S. policy. I want to start with a citation from Mark Twain that he gave, that he wrote during his 4-month stay in Hawaii in 1866. He called this place the loveliest fleet of islands that lies anchored in any ocean. And even now, people can agree with his saying, I guess. Hawaii nowadays is a cultural center and a major tourist destination for people all around the world. Hawaii's tourist economy as of 2025 stands at $30 billion, and it is expected to grow further rapidly. It is really very, very popular among tourists, and tourism, without doubt, is Hawaii's largest industry. But there is one more side of this shining coin. Hawaii nowadays is home to several military bases, each playing a crucial role in United States defense and national strategies. With its strategic location in the Pacific Ocean, the Hawaiian military bases are responsible for defending a vast area of the Pacific Ocean, including Hawaii, Guam, and the Philippines. They form a triangle if we look at the map. Islands host a wide range of military facilities, including airports, ports, and training center, with a total of 13 bases spread across the island. And I want to note that in different sources you can find different numbers, from 11 to 14. That is because some bases are joined. That's not a mistake. And the majority of military facilities are situated on Oahu Island. You can see this in the upper map, the location of bases. And some of them are placed on Hawaii themselves and Kauai Island. So these bases employ over 30,000 military personnel and civilians, and the total economic impact they pay to the Hawaiian economy is over $10 billion per year. Unfortunately, we don't have enough time to discuss all of these bases, so let's focus on the most important ones for today's topic. The first one is very famous joint base, Pearl Harbor Hickam. It's, I guess everyone knows, it is famous, or I guess it's better to say infamous, for the surprise attack from the Empire of Japan against Pacific Fleet in 1941. This base nowadays is this base that located in Oahu Island nowadays is one of the largest military bases in Hawaii, and this base is home for U.S. Pacific Command, headquarters of the U.S. Pacific Fleet, and some of Air Force's squadrons. And it is important to point out that this base is a major logistic and supply hub for the Pacific region, so it is the key base of the Pacific region for United States. The second important base is a naval computer and telecommunications area, Master Station Pacific. It has a very long abbreviation, and I don't want to read it. This base, it is not kind of military base like the previous one, but it is incredibly important because it is a definitive station for all naval information and communications in the Pacific. It supports both defense communications and telecommunications for U.S. Navy throughout the Pacific region. And given its location near the key Pacific Fleet base, this base can be considered as a critical element of US military communications and monitoring in the region. The monitoring part is very important. The third important base, and not a base to be honest, but a Pacific military range facility back in Sands. This previously discussed island, Hawaii, is home for Pacific Missile Range facility back in Sands, which is the world's biggest instrumental multi-environmental range with 42,000 square miles of controlled airspace and over 1,000 square miles of underwater range. That implies that planes, spaceships, ships, and submarines can operate simultaneously. And this site is used by weapons manufacturers, government agencies, and military branches to test ballistic missiles, rockets, drones, and hypersonic weapons. In addition to missile defense, the facility supports training operations, which vary from small single-unit exercises to large-scale, multiple-unit battleground scenarios. Interesting element of this site is Kauai Test Facility, which is operated by Sandia, one of the Department of Energy's national nuclear laboratories. This facility supported more than 400 launches, including a series of experimental rockets tests in 2019 to test new technologies being considered for the future nuclear weapons like suspension programs. The Hawaiian Islands also been testing ground for such very famous means of famous arms like Lockheed Martin's Aegis Ashore, Terminal High Altitude Area Defense Ballistic Missile Defense Systems, and Japanese Ground Cell Defense Forces Type 20 surface-to-surface missiles. Also, the region of Hawaii, not islands, but the whole region with water around it, is popular for international joint military drills. For example, a popular Rim of the Pacific drills are held there, and also Joint Pacific Multinational Training Center is also based there. So we can make a conclusion on this part that that Hawaiian Islands are an important point of communication control, troop locations, and weapon testing sites. But what from this to Hawaii's themselves? It is a very controversial point in the politics of US, and it has some pluses and minuses. So I guess we discuss them now. Speaking about pluses and force for these military bases, we can say that first of all they ensure protection of a strategic location for national defense. Secondly, they provide jobs that are attractive in a community where tourism and service sector often pay less and are vulnerable during disruptions like COVID-19. Also, these military bases and their personnel partner with local business to encourage science, technology, reading and math education, because they want a good personnel. But from my opinion, the disadvantages of having such a strong military bases in this region are stronger. Speaking about the disadvantages, first of all, it is the fact that these bases put a big target over Hawaii. So there is a saying by a native Hawaiian, Sparky Rodriguez, that the bombing of Pearl Harbor back in 1941 wasn't an attack on Hawaii, but on the US military. And I think this saying is very topical for today also. Secondly, these bases provoke countries who have tense relations with US. For example, near a month ago, in March 2025, where we held Black Widow exercise on Hawaii, and according to US Navy release, the drills combine submarines, surface ships, and aircraft into a team tasked to track and engage a simulated adversary submarine. For some people, it really can look like a provocation for countries like China or North Korea or even Russia. The third disadvantage is the fact that these bases, and especially test sites like Parkinson's, create the precondition for an arms race. We're speaking about the biggest testing missile facility in the world, of course. And the last but not the least disadvantage of holding these bases in Hawaii is a great environmental pollution that really bothers the civilians of Hawaii. The clear indication of the severity of a problem was a false missile alert that was on 13th of January in 2018. This alert was about incoming ballistic missile sent to Hawaii, sent Hawaii into panic for about 30 minutes on Saturday, and this message created a great wave of panic among the population and showed the reality of the threat. And after this, the sentiments against military bases in Hawaii really intensified. And in the end of my speech, I want to return to the topic that was previously mentioned by Dr. Orlov. It is Mark Zuckerberg's bunker in Hawaii. In 2023, information leaked to the media that Mark Zuckerberg has spent almost a decade buying up land on the island for the construction of a great system of mansions, tree houses, and tunnels. And the jewel of this crown was an underground shelter with its own energy and food supplies, and something that was appeared to be a blast-resistant door, as the media that took their investigation reported. Here you can see a citation from Mark Zuckerberg himself. What he said, what he answered when he was asked what is it. So he said that it was just a little shelter, nothing to worry about, and not some kind of like doomsday bunker. But I think it is somehow ironic that one of the wealthiest people built a bunker on the islands that not only houses the largest missile test site, but also has the largest concentration of US military. And here you can see my sources, if someone interested in them. And in the end, I just want to say that the situation with the geopolitical situation in Hawaii is far from being as unambiguous as it's commonly thought. So I think many people here thought that Hawaii are just tropical islands, paradise, and so on. maybe someone thought that in case they will, that we will know about coming Third World War with atomic bombs, they will come to Gavaiyi and spend their last minutes in paradise. But no, that is a bad idea, because it is a very important strategic point. So in the end of my speech, I only want to express my hope that the islands will remain such a beautiful place as we know them, and everything will be great. Now, on that note, I want to thank you for your attention and pass the floor to my colleague. Thank you.
Thank you, Anastasia. I think it's a very refreshing presentation, which gives us a very good idea, although, of course, in brief, of what the other side of Hawaii is. And now I invite Ruslan Belozerski to bring us to American craving. Why does the US need Greenland, Panama Canal, and Canada, maybe?
Is it working? Yes, that's working. Greetings, dear participants of our today's seminar and book presentation. My part of today's discussion has a question in it. I won't be coy with you. I will start with answering this question right away. The question is, why does the United States of America crave Canada, Greenland, and Panama? And in order to answer this question, we have to be reminded of certain facts and certain geopolitical details. 1 second. Yes. So we'll start with Canada. As we all know, Canada is one of the most crucial regions in the future due to, for now, untapped natural resources and geopolitical benefits, because Canada right now in a situation when warmer it gets, more important this country is going to be, because this country is a northern shield of the United States of America, so no wonder Trump wants to obtain this shield all for himself. The second is Panama. Panama Channel is a choke point for global trade. Right now, the canal handles up to 6% of all maritime trade and around 73% of all the United Nations ship traffic, which is huge, of course. And at the beginning, it was the territory of Washington because it was made with help of the American engineers through the labor of Panamese workers. And it was only due to prolonged anti-American campaign that happened in Panama that Washington was forced to negotiate and declare this territory neutral territory that was going to be governed through the bilateral efforts, Washington and Panama together. The next one is why Greenland. Everything I said about Canada can be said about Greenland as well, because this is the largest island in the world. Right now, it is covered by Greenland ice sheet. Therefore, the majority of the natural resources of the island are not available for now. But as I said, with Canada, the warmer it gets, the more important this territory is going to be. For, as you can see, this location that is right between the United States of America, Russia, and Europe makes it strategic both for economic and defense purposes. Especially because melting sea ice is opening new shipping routes through the Arctic region. It is estimated that very soon this Berlingov Strait is going to be just as important as Panama Canal and Hormuz Strait. Trump was not shy of saying about the importance of this region. He was for example, quote, "I'm talking about protecting the free world. You look outside, you don't even need binoculars. You have China ships all over the place. You have Russian ships all over the place." So, now that we were reminded why, we can proceed with how. Basically, if we look at the overall strategy that Washington adopted in recent years, we can see that this is an reimagined Monroe Doctrine, when America basically declares its dominion over the Western Hemisphere. And before we talk about Canada, we have to distinguish two different types of claims that were made by Trump. One that is a genuine attempt to obtain territory, and one that is nothing but an extortion attempt in a poorly fitted disguise. And I believe that the Canada is the latter rather than the former. For it's obvious that the United States of America adopted a doctrine of economic pressure, not in order to make it part of its territory, but in order to make a better deal when it comes to the distribution of America-Canadian trade and the tariffs. Canada has a lot of weak points that could be exploited by Trump, but he didn't do that. For example, Quebec autonomy demands. Quebec right now is one of the weak points in Canada, and Trump did everything he could in order not to exploit it. He managed to unite the whole country against himself and made Quebec more patriotic than ever in Canadian history. The problem with any claims that Trump has over Canada is that he severely backed down in last several weeks after the election campaign of the Prime Minister election campaign in Canada. As I said, he backed down and had talks with the new Prime Minister, Mark Carney, during which he basically promised to respect Canadian sovereignty. Yes, Canada would cease to exist if it wasn't for the United States, and in this crisis caused by the United States President and those who are enabling him are lament friendship lost. Next is Greenland. While I believe that Canada is nothing but an obfuscation on the part of Trump, I believe that Greenland is the next aim of the next American annexation. One way or another, we are going to have it. We need Greenland for national security and even international security, and we are working with everybody involved to try and get it. The Danes seems to believe him, and the sheer focus on this topic is obvious. That Trump is rather serious about obtaining this new territory. In order to do this, he has two strategies. One unlikely to happen, and another is more likely to be implemented. The first is military strategy. Unfortunately for Trump, it is really unlikely to happen because Greenland has
no chance of declaring war to the United States of America first, and any aggression without provocation would result in mutiny in Washington. The other strategy is a public relations campaign that was already launched against both Greenland government and the government in Copenhagen. This strategy is based upon, it is twofold strategy. The first part is basically economic persuasion. The other is an outrageous cry for heritage unity. The Trump has a plan of convincing the population of Greenland, that consists of around 60,000 people, that they should ask and join the United States of America. For example, one of the parts of this plan is an idea of replacing the $600 million of subsidies that Denmark gives to islands with an annual payment of about $10,000 per Greenlander. No matter how ruinous Trump's promises are going to be, the fact is that any cost paid for Greenland is going to be way more beneficial for the United States of America than to any other country, for they will find these natural resources and will make quite a tidy profit. The other part is heritage appeal. The society of the island is hardly united. It is plagued with pro- and anti-Danish sentiments and rightful outrage at Copenhagen for unhuman practice of covert and unconsensual practice of birth control that was practiced against the Inuit women and underage girls in order to decrease the birth rates of these people. And for some Inuit activists declared this genocide, and this is a very important crack in Greenland society that can further be exploited in order to appeal to the population that they should join the United States of America. And this campaign of appealing to these feelings of outrage has already started, both after the visit of the Vice President J.D. Vance in Greenland. For example, he said, "Our message to Denmark is very simple. You have not done a good job by the people of Greenland." Other parts of this is another quote that was said by one of the official representatives of Washington, Mr. O'Brien. Let us buy Greenland from it, and Greenland can become part of Alaska. I mean, the native people of Alaska are very closely related to the people of Alaska, and will make it a part of Alaska. Because in Alaska, the very same Inuit people live, and this can be used, as I said, as another leverage against both the Danish and Greenlander governments. Second. Yes. Panama. As I said, it was originally built in not the Panama Canal was built in 1914 by the United States Army Corps of Engineers through the labor of Panamanian laborers. Until 1977, it was sovereign territory of the United States of America, until after the continued campaign, anti-American campaign, Washington was forced to renegotiate, and this territory has become a mutual sovereignty territory. Basically, the canal and 10 kilometers in the both sides from it. However, this agreement wasn't quite liked in America because later on, during the Reagan administration, Reagan expressed the opinion that the people of the United States of America are the rightful owners of this canal, and they built it, they paid for it, and they are going to keep it. Since the start of the new millennia, it is solely in Panamanian control. However, lately, due to a series of negotiations with Donald Trump, the president of Panama, Jose Raúl Mulino, was forced to allow the strengthening of American military base in Panama. Also, Panama was forced to withdraw from the China Belt and Road Initiative and outdid a 25-year port concession that was held by a Hong Kong company. Basically, when we looking at the American policy in Panama, we see clearly anti-Chinese sentiments, and the whole strategy is based upon not letting Beijing in the region. And I believe that if Beijing makes no such attempt, and Jose remain passive, there will be no further attempts to stomp the overall sovereignty of Panama over the Panama Canal. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of time. I have to end my little presentation.
All right. Thank you. We are definitely traveled today, not fully across the globe, but partly for sure. And whether our reference to any links between history with Hawaii, how it turned to be a next territory, and later on as a state of the United States, or with Greenland, say, whether they are valid or whether there are no parallels, or whether there are few parallels. I think there definitely are at least some here, and it's also an issue of curiosity to imagine how the borders of the United States will look in a few years. Most likely they will be exactly the same as they are now, but it may be slightly different. It was a good slide by Ruslan in the one of the first slides. We listened to the opening remarks by the foreign ministry representative this afternoon, and of course it was a message of our will of cooperating with the United States. Yesterday I spoke with the president of the Kurchatov Institute, with Dr. Mikhail Kovalchuk, and we discussed real ways of practical new scientific, technical, economic cooperation between Russia and the United States at this new stage. But when it came to some parts of the world, like Arctic, which sometimes people mention that it may be a potential area of cooperation. No. Here we would not have any cooperation with the United States, nor United States would have any cooperation with Russia. They see Russia as a rival here, and their attempts on Greenland and other plans are not sporadic, but a part of the strategy. While us have the Sevmor Put, which is our strength, and it's unlikely that we would have the way to join forces with the United States. Plus, of course, there is the third player, which is China, which is a major potential Arctic player. So altogether, this is definitely not in black and white, and a very dynamic situation which we would look at. But from Greenland back to Hawaiian Islands, to warmer climates, I think we have time for no more than 2 questions or comments. They may be addressed to any of the speakers. Please identify to whom you address the question, including those who are in the audience and those who are online. And I first see Dasha, so I hope somebody will help with the mic for Dasha. Because we both have Q&A from where you are seated. Thank you.
Hello, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Daria. I am the master's student of the program International Security here at MGIMO. And actually, it's funny that you, esteemed Professor Schweitzer, mentioned numerously St. Petersburg, and I started wondering, I should raise my hand and say, I studied there, I graduated from this university. And we all know here in Russia, the Victory Day is coming, that St. Petersburg isn't just a city, but it's the whole world of memory, meaning, and culture. Every stone speaks there, every channel. And we all know here, while preparing to this seminar, that in Hawaii the same situation occurred, the attack. Yes, and Nastya mentioned in her speech that there were houses to rebuild, there were not so many people who could go shopping, dine out, because of this attack. And the people of Hawaii took decision to stand together to rebuild the island of Oahu and launched many campaigns to attract visitors. And this made and this led to this unity of the Hawaiian citizens, led to rediscover this beautiful island. And as I listen to the discussions today, I can't help but think of how far and wide those stories reach, even to places like Hawaii. Russia and Hawaii are places that might seem worlds apart, but in spirit, not so different. Both islands with deep roots, proud people, and a constant struggle to protect what is ours, to remember who we are. And this made me think that right now, across the world, there are forces, loud, persistent, that make us forget about our history, forget who we are. They cut out the parts of history that don't fit the current narrative. They forget the sacrifice, ignore the pain, and they are trying to erase the truth. And I see that's what unites us, the Russians and the people from Hawaii. And here I have one question, if I may. This is going to be connected, because you've mentioned that you wrote the book because nobody knew the history anymore. And what dangers arise when histories of smaller nations, peoples are forgotten? How can we protect them? How can historical novels and scholarly storytelling help preserve this cultural memory? Thank you very much.
Thank you. This was questioned by Daria Morozova to Dr. Schweitzer, and I only can regret that we don't have that much time to go into detail into that important question. But Niklaus, if you would like, please use maybe 2 minutes to comment on that. And I also register the second question from our online participant, Alev, I think, and then we will close the floor for questions and would come to the conclusions. Thank you. Niklaus?
Yeah, I was saying that it was an excellent question, and I also said about the University of Zurich. We had a professor in my family who was a professor of astronomy in St. Petersburg and in Moscow. So we have personal ties to your country, my family. And as to the question, what should be done, we should listen to Queen Liliuokalani, because she said that we should honor the law. International law. And she also said conflicts should be solved peacefully. And we have the famous song Aloha Oi, which we'll play at the end, if we still have time, which expresses this. Aloha Oi means I love you. And on our license plates in the state of Hawaii, we have the word aloha, love. So that sounds maybe a little possibly naive, but the idea to resolve major problems through peaceful means and through international law, I think, is the ultimate answer.
Thank you very much, Niklaus, and I suggest that we will have the song that you tell us. We can listen just maybe in 7 minutes from now, basically when we declare this meeting. Yeah, so with all our advanced communications, we still have some issues. Hopefully they're not too dramatic. And for me, the most important thing, just to be very frank, that we didn't have any interruption between Honolulu and Moscow today. And although we wanted to see Niklaus, you here in Moscow now, and the weather may be changing a little bit for the cooler style, but yesterday it was almost a Hawaiian day, very warm, and this morning as well. And again, I'm very happy on my side that we managed to, in addition to going into history, into some current issues, but we also managed to tell a little bit more about one of the 50 states of the United States, and disproportionately spend much time on it. Hopefully it was worth it, and it's Niklaus, thanks to you, and thanks to your book, and thanks to your passion with your love of Russian history, with your love of Hawaiian history. So I can, if you like, for conclusions, I can give you the floor for a couple of minutes. Then I will say a couple of words, and then you can turn on the music. Does it work like that? Yes, please. Hopefully you're more...
Yes,
we can hear you. Yeah.
One thing I would like to say, many people think that the Queen was overthrown by American businessmen. But they were not businessmen, nor were they American. They were judges and lawyers, and unhappily, they were sons and grandsons of the very missionaries that brought Christianity to Hawaii. So that we should realize. Now, not everybody involved was in that category, but the leading personalities definitely were. And that makes the whole problem even more poignant than it would have been in any case. So I return to my statement that deep down, this here is a religious problem. And we have to know about Calvinism. We have to know about the differences between Calvinists and Russian Orthodoxy, because we have a famous church here, which is Russian Orthodox, and it even has a streaming icon. Nobody can account for it, but it actually streams, and I saw this personally. And this really shows that religion in the Pacific in general is extremely important. And many Hawaiians are very, very good Christians, but they're still Hawaiians. So that's what I would also like to say. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Niklaus, for your clarifications and for your comment on my side. Very briefly, because we will run out of time very soon. So first of all, take your copy. Those who are here in the audience, don't be shy. Of course, if you are interested in what we discussed, the copies are yours, and even if you like to take another copy for your friend, you believe it may be useful, please do so now, because then there will be no opportunity to do it here at GIMAO. The second point, I'm very grateful to Professor Schweitzer for being with us, for writing the book, for enlightening us about Hawaiian history. And there are very few people in the world who know Hawaiian history better than Niklaus, including the part of annexation, but also other parts of Hawaiian, very rich history as well as excuse me, of Hawaiian culture. So thank you, Niklaus, for that. My many thanks go to our students. Actually, I very much enjoyed all of the presentation. Kirill, Anastasia Mirska, Alexander Gromov, Anastasia Nikulina, Ruslan. So that's very good work, and thank you for bringing your findings to us, particularly working on a topic which I know was new for all of you. Thank you for the audience here and online to follow this discussion. I see there could be more questions, but we are running of time, so informally you may continue our exchanges on the topics we raised. My thanks go to Svetoslav Arov, who had prepared this seminar together with me, and also for his thanks to his team, to Herman Silyavin, to Artyom Gavalov, to Yesenia Kasulina, and I'm sure to others who kindly volunteered to facilitate preparations for today's discussion. With that, it would be all about Hawaii, but the life is not over with Hawaii topics, and of course, as some of us will have some period of small break in early May, which is the Russian tradition with, well, some would go and working on their dachas for their crops. Others would just enjoy themselves. Others would prepare for the new classes. But we have two series of holidays here: the May Day, the Labor Day, and also, of course, a very important celebration of the V-Day, which we do celebrate on the 9th of May, and it will be the 80th anniversary of the Soviet victory in the Great Patriotic War. over Nazi Germany. So we both celebrating and enjoying. We also think here on the lessons of history. But we will be back to studies and for all our calendars, and specifically to our MA program in international security, May 15. This is where we will travel virtually to New York, where there will be over the PrepCon for the NPT review conference. I know it's a little bit difficult mentally now to switch from Hawaii to NPT, but well, I know we can. And even more, we will prepare for that seminar. It will be both on the results, on the outcome of the PrepCon in New York. If there is anything important to report, then we will be enlightened by our colleagues who will be online from New York, from Geneva to brief us, as well as some will be here in the audience. That seminar would be a standard one, so from 5:30 until 7 p.m. On the 15th of May, and material to get prepared will be either sent out to you or will be posted on the PIR-Center's, so highlighted on the PIR-Center's website, because we also will be discussing the 30th anniversary of the indefinite extension of the Non-Proliferation Treaty of the NPT, but besides your homework, I don't need any volunteers to speak at that seminar. Just be prepared to ask questions to the external speakers, and the program will be distributed to you accordingly if not yet. That workshop will be in a hybrid format, so the MA students in international security will be here in this hall, but it will be open for others interested at NGIMO, and also will be translated openly in an online format. With that, let me declare this long seminar adjourned. Again, thanks to all our speakers, and inviting Niklaus to put on the music which he believes would be relevant for the ending of today's seminar. So thank you all, and Niklaus, you can just put the music on. Thanks.
Mahalo nui. Spasibo большое. Okay, aloha oi. Jenny, I hope she's there. Jenny? Well, you know, I'm sure you heard it. It's a love song, but it moves on many, many different levels. And it confirms the Queen's firm belief that conflict should be resolved peacefully on the basis of the law. And she had a close ally, and that was none other than President Grover Cleveland, who was a friend of hers, because they met when Liliuokalani went to the Golden Jubilee of Queen Victoria, and she made a stop in Washington, D.C. So on that note, I think we can look forward maybe to a somewhat better future, possibly. And I would say the mission of Hawaii really is what the Queen told us it was. Mahalo piha, spasibo bolshoi. It was a great honor to participate, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Then I will turn some music on, but the participants can either leave or continue discussions here informally. So the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.